Hello, we're doing a little quick workshop on allergies. This is Kate Stillman with yogahealer.com, and I wanted to talk about allergies for a few reasons. Just to start with, I had allergies from about age 7 until I had done enough work on myself to really get to the root of my allergies, and that's really what I want for everyone. I know so many kids right now are on allergy medicine, so many adults are on allergy medicine, and a lot of the problems with the medicine is they don't actually overcome the root cause of the imbalance. And so for these reasons, I wanted to share some of my slides and really help people with allergies. We have a bunch of people who asked questions, who wrote in with their questions, and so I want to also bring those up. So the idea here is what we're working on is how to get rid of your allergies fast. So part of the issue that we see is that allergies are actually a result of chronic inflammation, and there's a lot of symptoms of chronic inflammation. We actually have this what are the symptoms that you have? Itchy eyes, sneezing, swollen lips, feeling sick or nauseous, swollen eyes, runny nose, red rashes, itchy throat, swollen, like waking up puffy, wheezing, asthma, itchy skin, red skin, watering eyes, and throat. And so the deal is, once we actually see that these are the issues that are part of chronic inflammation, if you can see, this is from Harvard Medical School, this slide, these are the diseases of chronic inflammation, that under lungs, you have allergy and asthma as a disease. These are some of the symptomologies of the precursors. And to me, the reason this is actually super important is if we understand that allergies are, in many ways, the canary in the coal mine for chronic inflammation that leads to chronic disease, it very well might make us want to really get to the root cause of our allergies. Like, what is really the root cause of our imbalance? And I know that's what it was for me coming in. Like, I really wanted to have a deeper understanding of why was my body allergic to the environment? Why was my body allergic to dust and dogs? And why was I, allergic to certain foods? And I know many people in this category are like, well, where do foods intersect, food allergies versus environmental allergies? What symptoms you have, and what are the allergens? Because if you actually look up on Google, what you're going to find is if you look at allergies, you're not going to actually come to a realization by reading what causes allergies that chronic inflammation causes allergies. Chronic inflammation is driven by diet and lifestyle. And these are actually some interesting stats here, that in like the early 1900s, hay fever was so rare that doctors struggled to find case studies. So hay fever was so rare only a little over 100 years ago. And if we look at what's happened in the last 100 years is we've had a rise of vegetable oil was created in a chemistry lab in 1907. So vegetable oil consumption. So we used to eat good oils and good fats. Vegetable oil consumption charts right along with the chart of how chronic inflammation and chronic disease have risen over the last 100 years. And that's not random. Sugars also followed the very similar trajectory and similar path. So even if we look at like what's normal, like what is normal now? Well, it's normal now for people to have chronic disease. It's norm, meaning the normative. The norm now is for people to have allergies. Where just 100 years ago, we couldn't find enough people with hay fever to do studies. Why is this? Why do we need to be concerned about this? Well, part of the deal is like chronic disease leads to death, right? So 3 out of 5 people right now worldwide die to diseases of chronic inflammation, strokes, respiratory diseases, heart disorders, cancer, obesity, and diabetes. So if allergies are indeed the canary in the coal mine, that's saying like, hey, wait, there's chronic inflammation in a physiology that's allergic. There's chronic inflammation in a physiology that has allergies, that has asthma, that has itchy skin or ectopic dermatitis or eczema, and we'll do more workshops on those later this month, then the number one question we should be asking is, how do we actually get to the root of chronic inflammation? And what we can find in this is that, allergies are really growing. They're predicted to continue to grow at 6.7% per year. This is the allergy treatment market size. So you as consumer, if you don't have allergies yet, 6.7% of people who don't have allergies now and are part of this treatment market are expected to actually enter this market, meaning we're becoming increasingly allergic. We're becoming increasingly reactive to that which is naturally arising in our ecosystem. We're becoming naturally more allergic to food and to that which we consider to be nourishing to our physiology. So this category of allergic disease is inclusive of diseases like asthma, hay fever, sinusitis. Again, any of these issues that you have, you can type in the chat. Rashes, hives, and some types of allergic reaction to foods, insect stings, and medication. So people who are like, oh my gosh, mosquitoes, I get welts with mosquito bites, right? My physiology is hyper reactive to histamines, right? To that which is like a toxin. And yet other people might get bit by bugs and almost have no reaction. Well, what is that telling you? That's telling you the current allostatic load, or how much of your physiology is actually under stress. I know this is probably impossible to read on the slide. But if we have chronic inflammation, it means that our adaptive immunity, our ability of our physiology to adapt to our environment is compromised. There's an ongoing stimulus that our immune system is just involved in trying to clean up the chronic inflammation. But as a result, when we're under chronic inflammation, we're secreting more and more inflammatory mediators from our immune cells, and that actually increases the inflammation. If we're not fasting for long enough, what happens is we're not actually releasing anti-inflammatory molecules or neurotransmitters from our fat cells, but that our fat cells are also releasing more inflammation into the bloodstream. So what happens is this becomes a loop. Another problem that happens, and we see this all the time, is that in culture today, it's interesting, a lot of us aren't taught how to breathe through our nose while we exercise. And so we're not actually opening the turbines of the breath in the sinuses. And the sinuses are in charge of producing nitric oxide, which is naturally anti-inflammatory and naturally anti-pathogen. So a lot of people with chronic sinus issues, with chronic allergies and chronic asthma don't have good access into breathing in their nose, to breathing deeply in through their nose, through these little, there's these things called ostia that are where if you, at the top of your nostrils before the access into your sinuses, that's the ostia. And if those ostia, there's little teeny tiny channels, if those are blocked, we're not getting the oxygen into our sinuses. And then our sinuses aren't producing the nitric oxide, which will then expand the lungs. And so often we become more allergic with less and less access into our sinuses. And so if we're mouth breathing, and I know there's one of the questions, let me just pull it out, you guys did a great job writing in some questions. And so one of the question was around, my 4-year-old son had allergies. My 4-year-old has allergies without relief. He's taking Claritin and Benadryl. Oh my gosh, this is like my story growing up. We've had him tested for allergies, and he's not allergic to anything. He has enlarged adenoids. And this is a clue. Apparently he has sleep apnea. So for a lot of adults too, and a lot of our elders, there's sleep apnea where people aren't actually really deeply breathing through their nostrils while they're sleeping. And what happens is our immune system becomes compromised because the nostrils and the sinuses, there's levels of filtration of the gases coming in. So we've got oxygen coming in. Again, the sinuses are producing the nitric oxide, which is a vasodilator, which tells the lungs to expand and the blood vessels to expand, and that's naturally antipathogenic. So again, we have like a 3-gas system, not just oxygen and carbon dioxide, but we have nitric oxide, this one in the middle that fries the pathogen and expands the lungs. But this doesn't work if we don't have access to our sinuses. One of the ways we know we don't have access to our sinuses is if we have sleep apnea or if we have a stuffy nose with when we exercise, we can't breathe through our nose. So this is one of the first things that you can start to do, which is exercise breathing through your nose as much as you can. You can also use a neti pot or nasal irrigation with warm salt water. And if you don't know what that is, just Google neti pot. We have some articles on yogahealer.com, and all that does is starts to clean the ostia. So then we're much more easily able to inhale. Now, if you'd use a neti pot and there's still gunk and goo in your sinuses and you can't breathe through your nostrils, in this community, we've done a lot of podcasting on urine therapy, whereas you use your own urine to actually clear your sinuses. And you can snort, you can use like a little catheter like this, like just a little syringe, sorry, not a catheter, just a little syringe, and actually sniff a few drops of your own urine up into your nostrils, and your sinuses will start to dump some of the mucus. So these things, actually, little kids take to their own urine a lot easier than most adults. So that would be an easy place to start with this little boy who doesn't have access into his nostrils. Okay, so the other thing I really want to talk about here with how do you decrease your chronic inflammation? Like, how do you decrease your allostatic load? And allostatic load is the measure of oxidative stress in your physiology. And part of the problem when people use, I'll go back to some of my little slides here. Part of the problem when people use, and most people do, use drugs to solve for allergies, and that's another big question that people have, which is what is the best allergy medicine, Claritin or Zyrtec or Benadryl? The problem is that these allergy medicines don't actually lower our allostatic load. They don't reduce oxidative stress. If anything, they increase oxidative stress because they're naturally more acidic in our physiology. So a lot of the antihistamines will also have side effects that let us know that there's actually an increase of load on our system. So side effects might be drowsiness or dry mouth or blurred vision or headaches, low blood pressure. I didn't realize that I had headaches before I started taking allergy medicine, so it was really hard for me to know how much my headaches were actually caused by the allergy medicine that I was on. But, reading this, if anyone's reading this list and you're thinking like, oh, some of these things are actually tied to the medicine, sometimes you don't realize that the medicine, especially if we're on it for months at a time, that the medicine actually has side effects in itself. So mucus thickening in the airways. Now, some of you might be thinking like, well, wait, if mucus thickening in the airways, if that's a side effect, but isn't that also a cause? Isn't that also a cause of my allergies? Isn't actually having a dry mouth and dry eyes or not having good lubrication in my senses, isn't that actually also a cause of the allergies? And this is where in holistic medicine we say, yes. That's why we want to get to the root cause of the imbalance and not just cover symptoms of allergies, symptoms that we're having in reaction to allergens. The reason we're reacting to allergens isn't because of the allergen, it's because of the underlying chronic inflammation that will lead to chronic disease. So again, if you're on meds, you want to know which of these side effects is actually keeping you from getting to the root cause of the imbalance. So rapid heart rate, difficulty urinating, and constipation. So what I want you to notice in the side effects from the antihistamines is they're drying out your system. The blood's getting thicker, hard to urinate, harder to poop, so you're losing fluidity, you're losing flow in the body. And actually, when we solve for allergies, and this is where I can spend hours with you going into what kind of allergies do you have? What is the root cause of your allergies so that you can understand that from your own personal constitution and what that's telling you about other imbalances that you can get to at the same time as uprooting your own allergies, which to me, it's like, that's how allergy relief really, really works, is it's not all these side effects caused from just using antihistamines that dehydrate your system. It's actually getting to the root of like, what isn't flowing right in your system? What is out of rhythm in your system? How high is the allostatic load or oxidative stress in your system? Why? Why is that allostatic load there? Is it because of eating too frequently? Is it there from eating too much? Is it there because you're eating foods that aren't easily digestible, foods that have vegetable oil, foods that have excess sugar? Is it because your ostia are blocked? And how do we unblock your ostia? So what I want to do right now and here in this little brief talk is help you just get really, really interested in what is at the root cause of my allergies. Like, what exactly is at the root cause of my allergies? And how do I get to the root cause of that? How do I actually uproot the root cause? And to that, you have to understand your own constitution. So in Ayurveda, that's the nature of your constitution. You want to also know the nature of your microbiome health, like how healthy is the microbiome in your sinuses? Again, if you're not breathing through your nose while you're exercising, if you're not breathing through your nose while you're sleeping, then we know that the microbiome of the sinuses is compromised. How much can your lungs fully expand and how much can they fully contract? Well, that right there, that is what is telling us the health of the lung microbiome. How easy is it for us to digest and eliminate without constipation, without bloating, without loose stool? That's telling us the health of our gut microbiome and our colon microbiome. So all of those, all of that is part of getting to the root cause of your allergies. And that's really how it starts, is like you want to get into the root cause. And the way you're going to do that is actually very personally through understanding, because this is where, and for me with Ayurveda, it's like super helpful to know how your root cause of your allergies may be quite different than the root cause of someone else's allergies. Now, in any given household, often people have different allergies to different foods, allergies even to different pets. One kid's allergic to the dog, another kid's allergic to the cat. And what we're really looking for there is like, what are the lifestyle changes that are really important for the whole family to make together? And that's where, when we get to that, you'll start to notice that like healing can happen on multiple levels within the same household. Okay, there was a few other questions that I wanted to read, so I'm going to take it again off screen share. There was a question. I love this question. I'm going to keep you guys anonymous, so I'm not going to read the names with the questions because I want to respect whatever privacy anybody wants. So she had this question. Why, oh why, do I have friends and neighbors who eat crap, like probably high on that vegetable oil, high on that sugar list, get crap sleep, don't regularly exercise, and yet during the transition of seasons, they're not outside with a box of tissue sneezing their faces off. And yet here I am, I'm eating better, I avoid processed junk, I avoid alcohol, I exercise regularly, intermittent fast for several years now, and I still have the same issues from childhood. So much sneezing, clear, thin snot, yet not very stuffy, yet very stuffy, itchy, watery eyes, itchy nose and throat, starts as soon as I'm outside, even for a couple minutes during the spring and fall, usually some relief during summer and winter. What else can I do? I'd love to take your course, but will it address what to do when you're already into health and wellness in Ayurveda and doing the basics? Yes, it absolutely will, because it'll get to the root of your particular type of allergy. So what I'm seeing here, because the snot is thin and clear, and because there's this overall reactivity in the eyes and the throat, in the nose, what I'm seeing here is it's more of a Vata type of allergy pattern. So I'm not going to get into all three doshas and all the different kinds of allergies. That's all in the allergy relief workshop, which I think Jane just added into our chat window, the links for that. It's, yeah, I'll put it up here. It's at yogahealer.com/offer-allergy relief, and there's a promo code, relief, exclamation point, and that will get you like 90% off. We're making this super, super affordable because we really want people to be able to uproot their allergies. Okay, so Vata type of allergies are caused by underlying dryness. And this underlying dryness creates a hypersensitivity. The underlying dryness is rooted more in the colon. And this is where, again, like holistic medicine works really different than taking Zyrtec or taking Benadryl. So say there's underlying dryness in the colon. What that means is within the colon, again, you've got crown to root of your physiology. So you work on an axis of polarity. You've got the top of your head, and then you've got the root of your pelvis. So if there's dryness in the root, there's not good flow, there's not good moisture, there's not good grounding for the nervous system at the root. Now think of a plant that at the root, that the roots are dried out. So if the roots of the plant are dried out, the whole plant, the whole nervous system of the plant says like, I'm not supported. I'm not hydrated. I'm not nourished. I'm not experiencing flow. And so then it's on the alert. So now there's chronic inflammation, even if it's at the emotional level. And the emotional level of this pattern is usually, I'm not supported. Like I am not supported this is so deep. This is like layers and layers into the subconscious. Like I am not deeply supported at the essence of the universe, at the essence of this planet Earth. I'm not deeply supported in the root of my body. So the nervous system becomes hyperreactive. And this is where I so feel you in terms of being able to see like, how come they're all able to get away with it? And I'm the one who's sneezing and have itchy eyes and I can't go outside. I can't enjoy this. What we want to do is like return really, really deep moisture into the root. So again, allergies are really specific. In the allergy relief workshop, oh, thanks Jane for putting that in the chat. In the allergy relief workshop, you'll find out a lot more. You'll go through a lot of personal assessments as I'm teaching to get to the root cause of your unique allergies. Now, let's say as this person goes through the workshop, what they might see, and this is going to be my wild guess right now, given this limited amount of information that I have, is that the colon's dry. So what we would do is actually in Ayurveda, we would say, well, how do we get more deep moisture into the colon? Well, the mouth is it's a much further journey to the colon than the anus. The anus is a direct access into the colon. And you guys, this is how getting to the root of the problem works, is we want to treat the problem at the root. So people that have more fiery imbalances, that might be more small intestine, people that have more thick, heavy mucousy imbalances, that might be more stomach, lung oriented. In the workshop, I'll walk you through the different body types and the different allergy types with different body types, because just because you have a body type doesn't mean you have that allergy type. And this is where it's super important to be able to really work through the process so that you understand the root cause. What is the root cause of your allergies and how do you solve at that root level? Because when you do, you're solving for the root cause of the chronic inflammation. So you're actually preventing chronic disease further down the line. Okay, so back to this woman that has this hypersensitivity. She walks outside and it's immediately reactivity everywhere. And the mucus is really thin, which means her body's just trying to produce moisture, but there's not like a deep emollients. There's not a saturation of what we call oleation or an oily energy. So we would probably actually have a person in this case do oil enemas. And there's specific herbs that you can use and specific oils you can use in those enemas. But what we want to do is recover. And I know that's TMI for some of you out there, but it's important to understand how different medicine traditions look at allergies. For those of you who are using urine therapy and those who want the guide to that, we have a quick guide that shows how people who use urine do this. It's really effective in allergies because you're upcycling your own antibodies, so you become a lot less allergic a lot faster. That guide is free and it's at yogahealer.com / I'll just type in the chat / P-book. I'm sorry, / P. I think it's P guide. Actually, Jane, can you check that? I think it's P guide. It might be P book. In any case, you can try either one. So again, it's really dependent on what else is going on in your physiology. You may have noticed when I talked about the different types of allergies, I started talking about digestion. I was like, what's going on in the stomach? What's going on in the small intestine? What's going on in the colon? So in Ayurvedic medicine, which is the medicine that I teach, and that's the medicine behind the Allergy Relief Workshop, what we see is that imbalances like allergies, they don't actually arise in the place that you're getting the symptoms. So say you have itchy eyes or say you have an itchy throat, that's not the root cause or root location of the nature of the imbalance. There were actually symptoms that were before those allergies, and they may have been subtle and we might not have noticed them. And those symptoms are happening in digestion. They're happening in the stomach, they're happening in the small intestine, they're happening in the colon. And what you want to do at this point is really go on a treasure hunt with digestion of like, what happened before I had allergies? So for me as a kid, before I had allergies, and even before I was on the medications for allergies that cause constipation, that cause the system to dry up, even before then I had constipation. So if I had been able to work at the root cause of constipation, some people have a root cause of like of a gooiness in the stomach and a development of thick mucus. Right, that's still digestive tract imbalance. That's going to happen before someone has before someone has sinusitis, or maybe before someone has asthma. So we want to get to like how do we have really seamless digestion and absorption? And what, again, if we go back to the slides, what we might see in those is like, oh wait, we have vegetable oil. Humans don't digest vegetable oil. We have too much sugar in our diet. Sugar is a commodity. It's not a food. And if we have these things, there's just such a load. There's this allostatic load. There's oxidative stress within the digestive tract that's stressing the heck out of the gut microbiome and the colon microbiome. So if we don't have fermented foods, if we don't have enough fiber in our diet for the microbiome in the colon to thrive on, then what happens is our oxidative stress starts to happen cellularly in the digestive tract first. So it's complicated. Yes, allergies are super, super complicated. You have a body type, you have an allergy type, you want to get to the root cause of it. But when you do, you get all these side benefits instead of having all these side effects. And that's really, really what, to me, that's really, really what it's all about, is like, how do you feel better on multiple levels? So that you're preventing diseases in your future. Okay, there was another question. What are my thoughts on quercetin or bromelain to reduce the histamine surge to your allergies? So we can use supplements. We can also use digestive tract supplements like turmeric and ginger are also anti-inflammatory. Whether we call them a spice, whether we cook with them in our food, or whether we bottle them and put them in a supplement, or whether we take really specific targeted minerals or other types of supplements like quercetin and bromelain to reduce the histamine surge or to lower the inflammation in our body. I'm still looking at, well, okay, we're treating symptoms. I don't want to treat, it's okay to treat symptoms, but I don't really want to treat symptoms. I want to get to the root. I want to get to the root cause of like what's going on in the digestive tract, what's going on in the microbiome. If the colon's dry, bromelain and quercetin aren't going to touch it. If there's hyperacidity in people that have a lot of the skin issues, a lot of the itchiness in the eyes, itchiness in the skin, itchiness in the throat, there's often excess pitta being produced in between the liver and the gallbladder and the small intestine. I want to get to the root cause of that acidity in the body and see if we can lower that part of the allostatic load and create more of an antioxidizing effect in the digestive tract. Okay, if someone has excess mucus, right, and they're like super mucousy and they're eating foods that create a heaviness in the body, then again, the quercetin and the bromelain aren't really going to affect at the root cause of the nature of the imbalance. In the same way, neither are turmeric supplements, like neither are ginger pills or ginger tea. What can help though is starting to cook with spices, cook with turmeric, cook with ginger to be able to optimize digestion, absorption, and elimination, to begin to extend fasting time so that intermittent fasting is happening for a longer, so that intermittent fasting is able to happen for a longer period of time, so the body's able to use that fasting time for autophagy. And in autophagy, we're able to actually digest the inflammation. And that's going to lower the oxidative stress. That's going to lower the allostatic load, and it just gets a lot easier to get better on all fronts. Okay, there's one more question. The best way to tell if food allergies are part of the problem. What are my thoughts on immunotherapy and on allergy shots? So food allergies, again, often are really connected. So, again, like when we look at allergies and we look at the allergy industry in general, they're noticing increase in food allergies, or noticing increase in exogenous allergies or environmental allergies. That's where like pollen, dust, dogs, horses, like some of you might notice, like you just are like allergic to the world out there. And so, yes, like part of it is like, are we having real food? Are we intermittent fasting? Even for children, are children fasting at least 13 to 14 hours between dinner and breakfast? Are they fasting between meals and drinking water? And this, again, digestion, absorption, elimination. Are we pooping completely every day? And for an adult, that's like, it's a lot. It's like 18 inches. Like that's how much poop is. It's like a full elimination of the descending colon and the transverse colon. It's like where you're like, oh, I just had a great poop. Awesome. Now we're on track for eliminating or uprooting the root of our allergies. Again, in the allergy relief workshop, for those of you who've been following us and don't have this, so if you're on the email list, we'll email you this link, but it's yogahealer.com/offer-allergy-relief. And there's a promo code and you can save a ton of money, and that's relief, exclamation point in capital letters. You spell it RELIEF, exclamation point, where you can really get through like what actually is going on in your digestion, in your absorption, in your elimination, and start to optimize for that. And that settles the nervous system down. Now, some of you are like, I've got great elimination. In fact, it's too great. In fact, I'm like pooping all the time. Well, that's also not good. That means that there's excess pitta or acidity in your system. So we'll want to actually slow down to actually absorb deeper nutrients, to allow, often more rebuilding of the microbiome in the colon, so that you have deeper level of absorption, and that will calm the nervous system down as well. Okay, so food allergies, again, if we're not eating real food, it's a problem. So if we have processed food in our diet, that's a problem. Now, there's also understanding the rules of food combining, and I believe I do get into this in one of the classes in allergy relief. But if you're in that class and I don't, just email us at help@yogahealer and we'll find that specific training for that. Basically, there's rules for food combining, and say we're eating fruit and then we're eating and then we're combining fruit with grains, like combining fruit with dairy. Like say we're having fruit with our yogurt, and say we put a little granola on our fruit and our yogurt. Well, that food combination will lead to only partially digested food. And that's going to often give rise to bloating, and then it'll give rise to mucus. And now we're going to be much more reactive. Again, the bloating is going to cause reactivity in the nervous system, and the mucus is going to cause reactivity in our sinuses and our lungs. So now we might see like, oh, my allergies are worse on days when I do bad food combining, when I eat yogurt with fruit, with granola. So the rules of Ayurvedic food combining, you can Google these. These are also just super helpful to know. The longer you do intermittent fasting, often the more you're doing urine therapy, the more you can break all the rules of food combining, because your digestion is so freaking strong, you can digest everything. But if you have allergies, if you have asthma, if you have autoimmune conditions, you've got to really nurture your digestion, and paying attention to food combining, these basic rules of food combining, can really, really be a total game changer. Okay, so what are my thoughts on allergy shots and immunotherapy? It's kind of like what I went through before. There's a lot of side effects. There's not getting to the root cause of the imbalance. And again, if we're not at the root cause of the imbalance, then it means we're just going to need to take shots in the future. But it also means that our allostatic load, we're not lessening that. We're not lessening our chronic inflammation. In fact, because there's side effects to the medicines, because the medicines themselves are acidic in our physiology, because the medicines themselves create a level of allostatic load or oxidative stress on the physiology, because the medicines themselves often make it a more challenging environment for the eubiotic microbiome or the healthy microbiome in the gut and in the colon to thrive, we're actually going to maybe just be covering up certain symptoms like the itchy eyes and the itchy nose and the itchy throat, or a lot of the mucus in the channels. We're going to be drying them up, but we're not getting to the root cause. Which, what does that mean down the road? That means chronic disease. So what might that look like? Well, how do allergies turn into cancer is a good question. Like, how does asthma turn into an autoimmune disease? It's another good question. And this is really, again, in holistic medicine, we're looking at what is the root cause? What's going on between the mouth and the anus? Do we have perfect digestion? Do we have enough fasting time? Are we replenishing our physiology? Are we getting really deep nourishment to absorb and create really strong tissue of the body? Are we relaxed in our nerves so that our nervous system isn't hyperreactive to our environment? And that's really where, to me, that's really the beauty of holistic medicine. I've got to say, like, allergies probably are what brought me in to studying Ayurveda and to detoxing and to optimizing my digestion and studying chronic inflammation for our global community. And I've got to say, like, it's been a heck of a path. And that's, to me, for a lot of people with allergies and a lot of kids with allergies, like, this is often the beginning of a deeper healing journey. And on the healing journey, you will discover, like, the greatest gifts and the greatest gems. And this is not something you can find in an allergy shot or in an immunotherapy dose. Yeah. So even with immunotherapy, we're not getting to the root cause. All right, I just want to see if there's any other questions. There's a question about my P-book. Elaine, first I'm releasing Wild Habits. Wild Habits is coming out shortly. It's almost completely done editing. You can expect that in June at the latest. And then the next book on P is probably not going to be out until the end of the year. But we do have a really good abbreviated P book. It looks like, sorry, I gave you guys the wrong link. It's at yogahealer.com/PEE-book. And that's just like a little mini version, but it's enough to get you started. We also, on yogahealer.com, there's a section at the top called free workshops. You can scroll through there. There's a good workshop on, for those who are getting started with urine therapy, there's a good free workshop there. For those of you who have emotional eating issues and you know those are connected to your allergies because you can't change your diet that easily, there's also a really good emotional eating workshop in there. All right. We have a number of these free workshops this month on allergies, asthma, autoimmune. And so I hope, and also the last one is going to be on weight creep. You're going to hear me keep talking about this connection between symptomology and chronic inflammation. If any of you who aren't in our major courses want to explore more how we deeply work with people and coach people into optimal health, you can just start with a free body goal session where we help you just, and it's free. It's really fun to actually realize what are your body goals and what is going on behind the scenes. You can go to yogahealer.com/body-goals and schedule your one-on-one with Anna. She's on our team. I promise she will take very good care of you and help you realize exactly, like, what are your body goals and how old are your issues and what do you, and really what is your next potential. Okay, I'm not seeing any other questions. I think we're good. Elaine's asking, dry eyes may be related to allergy medicine. Yes. Yes. Start to notice the side effects that I went through on that list. Again, like, what's going on in fluidity? Because the body, if you think about it, the body's super intelligent. It's hyperreactive to the environment with allergies. And what it's trying to do is trying to flush out some of the inflammation. It's trying to enter deeper levels of hydration and flow. And so when we take the antihistamine, it actually disrupts the body's natural response to flushing out the allergen and also flushing out the inflammatory response. And then it dries up the channel. So then we see side effects upon side effects. And that's really, again, what I'm petrified about is like when we medicate and medicate and medicate these, we're just signing up for more medications in the future. And unfortunately, we're signing up for more chronic disease in the future. So please, you guys, if you have allergies, take the allergy relief workshop, get to the root cause of the imbalance. Okay, the other question, how old is the aged urine you can snort for your allergies? As old as you've got. Yeah, so the older pee as it ages gets to be a stronger and stronger medicine. And you might find it's only a couple of drops and then the ostia open, the sinuses start to dump mucus, or the sinuses don't dump mucus and they start to hydrate from the urea in the urine, which is an emollient. It's a lubricant, very similar to oil, but a lot more effective for the sinus microbiome. I know, it's a wild, wild world out there. All right, I think that's about it. That's all I have for you guys right now. We will turn this into a podcast, so if you want to send people to this lecture that have allergies, just look for it next week on the Yoga Healer podcast. And I look forward to seeing you all back for the asthma talk. Namaste, and have a great day.